Good afternoon, everyone. Let's get started. Thank you for attending our session. My name is Maxim Satarov, and this is my colleague Stephen Boyd. We are both on business analyst team. Today we are going to talk about using demographic, business, and consumer information in your apps and maps. And we'll be using the demographic and socioeconomic variables through the geo-enrichment service. Geo-enrichment is a service that is available both in ArcGIS Online and as part of ArcGIS Enterprise through Business Analyst Server. Enrichment service allows you to enrich your data. You can either enrich it using one of the thousands of demographic and socioeconomic variables that are provided by Esri, or you can set up your own statistical information and enrich your features using your own statistical data. If you want to find out about the geo-enrichment service, just go to developers.arcgis.com, click documentation, and then search for demographics, and you'll get directly to this REST documentation page. On this page, we talk about geo-enrichment service in general, how to access it, what is the coverage, and there is a REST reference there as well. Another kind of URL that I wanted to talk about is the GitHub repository in which we host our samples. So all the sample code that I will be using is available in this repository. I'm having a little bit of problem navigating there, but if you go to Python and then to standard geography, you will find all the samples and the Python toolbox that I will be demoing. So this short URL again is esriurl.com/enrich. Right now, let's get directly to the demo. All my samples will be in ArcGIS Pro, and I will be using Python window for that. Let me start by just bringing in some boilerplate code from here. Here I'm just importing a couple of popular libraries. I'm getting the portal URL, getting the token, getting the the portal description, and from that portal description I'm getting the helper services node. And from that node I'm taking the geo-enrichment URL. Let's check what we got here. Yeah, so I'm connected to ArcGIS Online, so that's why I'm using right now the online version of geo-enrichment. But if you are connected to your own portal, your own ArcGIS Enterprise, you'll probably get some other URL here, but the code will be exactly the same. Now it's time to do our first enrich request. Let me copy it in. So here I have 3 arguments. The first one is just the format. I want the JSON back. Second argument is token. And the last argument is study areas. And in this case, it's just X and Y coordinates of the convention center that we are in. Let's run this request and take a look at the response. First of all, it is a feature set, so it's really easy to convert it to a feature class or use it directly in your apps and maps. In the response, we have a single feature, and it represents a 1 mile buffer around the point that we have provided. And for that 1 mile buffer, we get the total population, total households, average household size, total males, and total females. Those are the key demographic facts, and they are provided by default. There are ways to customize this request. For instance, if you don't want to use the 1 mile ring, you can select something else. And in this case, I'm using a 15 minutes drive time buffer. And this is done through the study area options parameter. Another way to customize it is to use return geometry equals true. And if you do that, then your response will also contain the geometry of the buffer that you are creating. Also, you can select which variables you want to enrich with. So by default, you get those 5 key demographic facts, but you can also use any of the thousands of the variables that are available. In this case, I'm selecting a couple of market potential variables and average household size. Another way to use enrich is through the named statistical areas. Let's take a look at how that works. So in this case, as a study area parameter, I'm passing in an object that has a source country in it, which is US in this case, layer, zip codes, and IDs. I'm selecting 92373, which is a zip code in Redlands, and 92262, which is the zip code in Palm Springs. And let's run this request. Response.txt now contains 2 features. The first one is the Redlands zip code and demographic information for that zip code. And the second feature is the Palm Springs zip code and demographic information for that zip code. In the header, you can find the aliases of those variables. So you can see that the first variable is actually an index of the number of people who read at least one daily newspaper, paper version. Second variable is the number of households that have landline telephone only, no cell phone. And the last one is the average household income. Now, that's great. It's really easy to use. You see that you can just enter the zip code ID and enrich that zip code. But what if you don't know what is the layer ID and what are the IDs? Well, there are methods to discover that information. Now let's try to find the population of the city of Brussels in Belgium. I don't know what is the country code for Belgium, what is the layer ID, what would be the ID of the feature in that layer. So let's use some discovery methods to find that out. First method that we'll be using is called countries. Let's run it. The response will be pretty large because we are supporting 137 countries at this point. But I happen to know that number 14 will be Belgium, and there are a couple of pieces of information here, but most importantly for me is the ID. So the country ID for Belgium would be BE. The next request is to find out which geography levels are available. This request is called standard geography levels. And I'm also appending the country ID to that. Let's run it. And the response is also pretty large, so I'll take just a piece of information from there. So now I see that in Belgium, the first geography level in the hierarchy is the whole country. Then we have regions, postal codes 1, provinces, arrondissements, etc. So I will be using the provinces, and the ID for that layer is be.provinces. And the last query that I will do to find the Brussels population is a standard geography query. So here I'm selecting the source country, which is BE. My geography level will be be.provinces, and I'm also selecting the geography query, and in this case it will be a string Brussels. Let's run this request. Take a look at the result. So the result contains geometry because I requested it, and it represents the capital region of Bruxelles Capitale, and from here, we also see that the area ID for it is 04000. So now we have all the information that will allow us to enrich this area. And let's just do that. Now my study area is this Python object. My source country is Belgium, layer is be.provinces, and ID is 04000. All right, so now we have the key demographic facts about Brussels in Belgium. Cool, so that was the last example that I will do in Python window. So now let's try and put this to work in a more real life example. This is a Python toolbox that you can find in that GitHub repository. And the tool in it is called generate standard geography level. And there are 4 parameters to it. The first one is filled with all the countries that are available in geo-enrichment service. So to fill it out, I use the country endpoint. The second parameter is the geography level. So for the US, we have this list of available geography levels. Let's just select the counties. The third parameter is the search query. I'll be just looking for Orange County. And the last one is the output feature class. Let's call it Orange County as well. Now I'm running the tool. While it's running, I can quickly show you the code behind it. It's really simple. So first I just get the parameter values, delete the output if it exists. Then I perform the standard geography query and get the feature set back. That feature set is then written into a temporary text file right here. And then I'm using the conversion tool, JSON to features, to convert it to the output feature class. And the perform geography query is really nothing more than what I have just shown you. So it's using the standard geography execute, prepares the parameters, sends it in, and returns the result. All right, let's take a look at the result. So you can see that there are actually several orange counties in the United States. The biggest one is in California, but there are actually orange counties as far north as Vermont. All right, let's now try to find the Brussels shape again. I will select the Belgium as a country. Belgium provinces at geography level. I will search for Brussels. And run the tool. So fortunately for enrich operations, we don't need to write anything custom. So the tool has finished, and let's take a look at it. So this is the boundary of Brussels capital region. Now let's take a look at the enrich layer tool. That's a standard tool that comes with ArcGIS Pro 2.1. We just select the input features. It will be Brussels. And there is a UI for selecting the variables. So these are all the variables that are provided for Belgium. I will select a couple of population variables. And I will also drill into the spending category and select a few variables from there. Click OK. Now here are all my variables selected in the tool. I can actually switch the male and female population to percentage and run the tool. And the result will have a single feature that will represent my input feature. And this time it will have the variables that I have requested appended to the attribute table. So you can see the percentage of male and female population and spending variables as well. So those are the variables that are provided by Esri, and now Steven will show us how to set up your own custom statistical data, and then we'll try and use those in Enrich Layer 2 as well. Steven?
All right. Am I good in the back? Can you guys hear me? Awesome. All right, thanks, Max. So Max just showed how you can enrich your layer with Esri provided data, but what happens if you've got your own data, your own sales data, your own customer information, say market potential? How do you want to work with that, and you want to enrich your layer the same way you can with the Esri provided content? So I'm going to show you how you can do that. So first off, I've got this feature layer that was created by my colleague, Tony Hauser, who's sitting up here in the second row. So there's two particular fields on this feature layer that I'm interested in, the market potential and the companies. And this is for the postcodes in the Benelux region in Europe. So let me pull this up in the ArcGIS Online map viewer just to give you an idea of what this looks like. So you can see this is broken down by the postcodes. If I pull up the fields, you're going to see here I've got the list. So this is the number of companies. I'm interested in this column. And then also the market potential, which assigns a score that I'm interested in. So I want to configure this to be used side by side with our Esri data. So I'm going to show you how you can do that in the Business Analyst web application. So this same workflow is available in BA Desktop. It's also available, or not available yet in Pro, but it's on the roadmap, so it'll be coming soon in Pro. But you can create it in one, share it with your organization, and then any users can use it, whether it's in the web app, desktop, or Pro. So in the web app, I've logged in. I'm in the country of Belgium. If I switch over to the Maps tab, under Add Data, Custom Data Setup, I can go ahead and get started. So I've got the URL. I already know the URL of the map service I want to work with, so I can use that. If you don't have that, you can actually browse for a layer, and this will allow you to pull up your, browse your ArcGIS Online content to select it that way as well. But I already know the feature service, so I pasted it, and then I'm going to select Go. And what this will do, this is going out and querying that feature server, and it's only displaying the numeric fields which I'm able to configure. So let me talk a little bit about what the requirements are for the feature server in order to be able to be set up as custom data. So we're working with it's either got to be a polygon layer or a point layer. So for polygon layers, we use the same apportionment methodology that is used for the Esri standard data. So you can configure to apportion this by population or area. And for point layers, we take all the points that lie within the study area, and you can choose to either sum up that data, or you can take the average of all the points that fall within that area. So in this instance, like I said, I'm only interested in the companies and the market potential. So I'm going to unselect all the other ones and only select those two. Let me give this a little better name. I'm going to go ahead and leave all the defaults. So I'm going to leave the summary type as sum as the summary type. And then we're going to use the apportionment by population. If I was working with currency or averages, I could change those. And I could also set the precision on the decimal if I wanted to as well. Okay, so I've got those good, how I want configured. So let me go ahead and click Save. So now the title I give here is actually how these variables are going to be grouped under that data browser. So for demo purposes, let's just call this Dev Summit Demo. And I'm going to go ahead and save this. So now this item, there's a statistical data collection item that's getting saved out in our organization on ArcGIS Online. And once that's done, I can actually take this item, click on it, and share it with my entire organization. So now that it's shared, Max is able to actually work with it. But before he does that, let me just show you really quick in the web app what this now looks like since I've configured it. So I'm going to create a quick color-coded map with that data. You'll see in the data browser, I've got this new category up here in the top left corner called My Data. And now if I select that, you're going to see the Dev Summit Demo that I configured, and then my two variables that I configured, companies and market potential. So I can just select companies like I would any of the other Esri variables, and this is going to go create a color code map for me in the Benelux region. And I can use that in color-coded maps, smart map search, comparison reports, infographics if you were at our demo earlier today. And now I'm going to hand it back over to Max, and he'll show the rest of this in Pro.
All right, thanks, Steven. Let me start the enrich layer tool again. I will select the Brussels layer, and I'll go back to the data browser. Let me select a couple of population variables, and now I will go to the shared content. And now the set of variables that Steven has set up for me shows up here, and I can use them along with the Esri variables that are selected from the population category. Hitting OK, those variables show up just like any other variable would, and I can run the tool. And now my layer is enriched with both the demographic variables from Esri and companies and market potential attributes that Steven set up for me. So it's pulling the data from two different sources, and it's done in a single request to the Geo Enrichment service. That pretty much concludes our demo. Please fill out the survey. And now we have a few minutes for questions. Yeah, this is again the short URL for all the samples that we have shown you. Thank you.